Good morning. Water, water everywhere, nor yet a drop to drink. Well, that could be the situation under your fields, and with the rising cost of water these days, who wouldn't like to find it? But how do you set about doing it? Well, you could employ a dowser. There are lots of dowsers around, and one of the best known and best respected in the Midlands is Roy Talbot. Well, Roy's listed by the Ministry of Agriculture, and we went out with him to look for water and to try and pump it out of the ground.
I think a dowser is a person who has the ability, or who has developed the ability to find any underground phenomena, particularly water.
And anybody who can do it as a party trick is a dowser, are they?
Well, I wouldn't call them a dowser. They probably would themselves. I feel that a dowser, to call himself a dowser, really needs to have proved by excavation or by drilling whatever he finds. Other than that, it is just a party trick.
Now, what exactly are the tools of your trade?
I tend to go for simplicity. So I use normal angle rods.
Yeah.
I say normal angle. They just run into copper tubes simply to let them rotate easily. That's my main one for field work. That can be used as well. It is, in fact, a part of an old car aerial, but any rod which will oscillate at the end, like so, that is really more of a party trick, insofar as I'm concerned, than anything. And the other one, and a very necessary one, is a pendulum.
And what's that used for?
Principally, that tells you a state of change. But I'll explain that as we go along.
What's this for?
Well, that helps, or used to help, with defining the purity of the water. Dowsers usually say, for instance, that blue is very pure water, or that black is obviously very evil and you cannot drink it. I've gone past the stage of holding what they call a witness. It's the major rosette, actually, the rosette of colours. And I apply it now purely as a mental thing.
How much underground water is there on farms in Britain?
I can't remember whether it's 7/8 of the total water in the land runs underground or whether it's 7/9, but it's something in that order. Most of it is underground.
Now, can you find other things as well as water?
Oh, yes, yes. Archaeological sites, you can pick up the outlines of buildings. Strata, you can define what kind of strata the driller has got to go through. Because if you're not using this as a party trick, then you are using it for a specific and definite purpose. It's no use telling a driller, drill there. He may very well drill in that spot that you indicate, but nobody's told him it's not 20 feet down, it's 250 feet down. And to get at that water, he's got to go through a bed of sandstone or limestone that is very, very hard. So he needs to know that, and the dowser can tell him what the strata changes are, as indicated by this pendulum, what the changes are as he goes down to get that water.
And what about the things like gas mains and electricity?
Very easy. A dowser can find any of the services. It's the normal electricity, gas, soil water drains, freshwater drains, land drains, cavities of any sort, tunnelling, which is a particular favourite of mine, old mines, pit shafts, those sort of things.
Can you find, I mean, I know that farmers often get troubled with burst water pipes. I mean, can you actually find where the water's leaking?
Yes, you can. I did one not too long ago, a 2 million gallon reservoir, and the water was leaking out that at a vast rate of knots, and I can find where that's going and where it comes from.
How do you, I mean, if you've got a piece of land where there are drains and there are electricity cables and there are gas pipes and there are land drains and everything else, how do you differentiate between that and the water supply you're looking for?
It's a mental exercise. The whole thing is a mental exercise. These are indicators. This is also an indicator. The pendulum is an indicator. It depends upon what you're looking for. To start with, a dowser has got to know precisely what he's looking for. Precisely. And he's got to be able to define it precisely in his own mind. If he can't, he'll find a multitude of things which makes interpretation of what's actually on that site very difficult.
So you can, by blocking it out from your mind, be very, very precise on detail?
Oh, yes. And if a farmer, for instance, wants water, but he's not prepared to involve himself with the cost of going down, say, 200 feet, but he wants anything within 50 feet, one ought to be able, and I do, block off at a particular level. I'm not interested in anything beyond a certain depth. In this particular case, I'm not interested in anything over about 50 or 60 feet, but I can go down to, and have proved it, down to 8,000 feet.
How do you think dowsing works?
I haven't really got a clue, not a clue. I know what will inhibit it working, and what stops me working or gives false results. It must be, I think, related to some inner, long-lost knowledge that we had. Certainly I think it's mental, but I don't think it's to do with any known scientific fact at the moment.
How often are you right, Roy?
I've been doing this for 26 years now. Originally, I reckoned about 7 times out of 10, but it's more than that now. In fact, I usually work on a no-find, no-fee basis. So if the water I say is there is not proved to within a reasonable percentage either way, in terms of volume and in terms of depth, I don't take a fee for it.
When you're wrong, why are you wrong?
Sometimes I'm wrong because I'm working with a lot of people around me. The more people who are sceptical of the idea, the more tension it produces within me. And a dowser cannot work unless he can relax, and relax sort of from here.
Have there ever been times when you've been sceptical about dowsing yourself?
Yes, it's the way it all started off. I read about it in an editorial in a science fiction magazine, and my instant reaction was, what a load of old boots. So I got 2 pieces of wire and I bent them and tried it over a drain, and it seemed to work. And I've taken it on from there and refined it, I think, and done a lot of investigation.
So presumably, having found the water, the drilling is very important too. I mean, the accuracy of the drilling rig.
Absolutely. Some drillers, not that I disparage drillers by any means, but some drillers tend to say, for dowsers marked to spot, anywhere within 10 feet of that will do, because putting a rig up sometimes is not a very easy thing, especially on some sites. Some drillers will put the mast up so that it's not absolutely straight. Now, if you consider a 1 degree off vertical, you're going down 50 feet, and you're looking for 2 streams that cross, but at different levels. Now, you're looking there for a patch of ground about 1'6" square. Now, if you're going down, you want to hit a patch 1'6" square, 50 feet down, and your mast is off 1 or 2 degrees, you'll miss it. Now, if that stream's running in a fissure, which I must know, whether it's in a fissure or in a bedding plane or what its posture is, the drill will miss it. And, of course, that's the dowser's fault.
Well, let's take a hypothetical situation. There's a farmer who wants to find water on a piece of land. What's the first thing you would ask him for?
The very first thing is a map of the area, a plan of the area. I've got one here if you'd like to see it.
And what does that help you with?
I use the pendulum in conjunction with the map. But first, see, this is how it goes. They send me a map of the area.
I see, that's the Ordnance Survey.
That's the Ordnance Survey, and this is a
scale.
plan which delineates the actual fields in which he's searching for water. The first thing I do is to enlarge that into something of this size. And then I work on this with the pendulum. That will tell me, firstly, whether there is any suitable water there, and secondly, it will give me an approximate location of that water. I can do then approximate depths, quality of water, and the strata, which are all necessary before I go onto the field.
So without ever visiting the site, you can write back to the farmer and say, look, I'm sorry, it's a waste of time, or yes, you've got water, I can find it for you.
Absolutely. It's no use my going there at all, the other end of the country it might be, if there's no possibility of any water, or if the water available is too deep or of insufficient volume for the supply that he wants.
And how accurate are you from the map? I mean,
reasonably accurate, actually. If I dispense with this one, what I've got here is 2 streams which are marked within this field, and from that it has told me I can tell the depth below ground level of both streams, the existing volumes in gallons per hour, because I can't work in anything other than gallons per hour.
So dowsing hasn't gone metric?
No way, no, not for me anyway. The extractable volumes, given that we're going to set a 3.5-inch bore down or something approximately that size, the hydrostatic level, that is the level to which the water will rise within the bore, and what its posture is, that is whether it's a fissure stream, whether it's an embedding, whether it's a siphonic stream. If it's a siphon and you break into the siphon, no water, because as soon as you break a siphon the water disappears. And then I do the strata changes on that, down to, in this case, 62 feet, which tells me that he's got topsoil, clay with gravel, stony clay, sandstone, sand, and then a clayey sandstone.
Roy, this all seems very scientific for a dowser.
I believe that if dowsing is of worth, it must act according to certain scientific principles, whether we know what those principles are or not. Hence, I approach it as scientifically as possible.
And you can tell from this map, Douse, whether the water's going to be drinkable or not?
Yes. In here I have got whether it's potable or not. In fact, I haven't put it on this, but it would be one of the checks that I would make beforehand. Very often streams are... See, if there's a silage pit or something over the area that this stream collects its water from, then it's no use going for that, because the pollution from the silage into the stream could very well make the water undrinkable.
Right, and that is what you're going to work from?
This is my key.
For marking the...
Yes, I'll use those to mark the streams as we find them.
Right.
Now, from the map, there's a stream which runs out from under this boundary across that way, and that's the first one that we've got to find. So, we walk along here until... If you'd like to stay somewhere about here, I'll take the necessary things out of this.
Do you need these?
I shall do, yes. Right. Now, may I have... To tell you what, I'll take 3 of those.
Right.
4 of those. And what I'm going to do now is to go and look for it.
And that's the sort of area where you think it is it?
Yes, it comes out somewhere along this boundary, and the map tells me not too far away. Now, I'm looking for a stream that I know is there, and I walk until the rods deflect. Now there, that is one point.
That's where it flows into the field?
That's where it flows into the field. Now I've got to see what it does from that point onwards.
So we're actually tracking the flow of the stream?
We are tracking the flow of the stream, yes. Second point. So to this point, it's running reasonably straight. Could you bring me some more stakes across, please?
Certainly. Roy, most people's idea of a dowser is somebody who walks around with a forked stick. I mean, don't you ever do that?
Well, yes, I do, and I've got one with me to show you, because I thought it might be of interest. It need not be hazel, and this one isn't. It's any forked stick with the right amount of tension in it. You grip it underneath like that, hold it outwards, like so, and then start. Now it's going to go, and you see that twists round and it comes right the way up again. But it's useless now. That's why I use metal ones, because you can use them time and time again. But with forked stakes, you've just got to go and hunt the hedgerows again to find some more.
So the stream's over there then?
It's heading somewhere over this way. Now what we should be looking for now is where the other stream is.
Do we know where roughly it comes?
No, but as long as I walk along the line of this stream, I shall pick it up.
Well, I'll clear out of the way.
Now there we are.
It all looks so matter-of-fact, Roy.
Well, it is. I have been doing it for a year or two. Now we've got a stream which runs down here,
Yeah.
wherever it came from, and we've got a stream which runs down there.
So somewhere in this patch of greenery here is the place?
Somewhere in this patch of greenery we shall knock a peg in.
Well, come on, you tell me where to knock the peg in.
Just there.
What, here?
No. Let's be right. Just there.
Just
That's
there.
right.
Right. You sure?
Yes, I'm
So
positive.
I don't want to knock it down too far?
It's always wood on wood, never metal on wood, or metal on metal.
Now then, that is where the drill is going to go down, exactly vertically.
Exactly there, exactly vertically.
Right. Now then, what other information are you going to tell the drilling contractor?
Well, we want to know whether it's potable, we want to know how far down, we want to know where the strata changes are likely to be. And we want to know the volume as well.
So how are you going to do that?
You can do volumes in many ways. We'll do this stream first. Is it less than 1,000 gallons an hour? Now the answer to this is going to be no. Right? Is it less than 2,000 gallons per hour? Is it less than 3,000 gallons per hour? So we're between 2,000 and 3,000 gallons per hour. You saw the rods deflect. Now I would do exactly the same over that stream.
Yeah.
Also,
right. Okay.
we've got the volumes.
Now then,
Now,
depth.
the depth. I told you I used a pendulum. Well, that was the pendulum I showed you.
That's the standard type of
Well,
pendulum.
that's the pendulum I showed you before, but this I don't use because I find I get much better results. Don't laugh, with a small bottle. and that small bottle.
As long as it works, Roy, that's the
Oh,
thing.
it works. It works. Now, what's it doing now? Swinging backwards and forwards.
That's right.
What's happening now?
It's moving
No.
clockwise.
Clockwise, right. Now, that indicates a change.
Yeah.
And it will go to any change. So let's have a look at the depth of this stream. I'm standing astride the flow of water. And I shall count down in feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Right? What's it doing?
It's trying to move around in a circle,
Right.
clockwise.
Between 18 and 19 feet down that stream is. And if
Right.
that B will go away.
Right.
Now, we go on and we'll do exactly the same thing for that stream. This one is for this one.
Yeah.
And we turn this way on and do that stream.
But at worst, we know we've got water 18, 19 feet down there.
That's right. The lower one, I think, is about 45, 47 feet, that sort of depth.
Right. Now, what about strata?
Strata, same thing. What I've got to do is to mentally visualise the change levels in feet and also to identify them, to visualise what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Now, this one, I'm just looking for changes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going. 5, right, gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's very slight. So there's a change at 5, and I would say the first 5 foot is topsoil and general overburden. Now if I go on from there, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's a change coming up at 12. We would just go on through that. This will then indicate each change that it comes to, that I come to.
And you'd give that detail to the driller?
I would, yes.
Right. Right, so the next job is to see whether you're right.
Yes, hopefully I am.
Neil, we've had our stake knocked in the ground where to drill. How much trouble is it getting the actual rig to the site?
In this particular case, no problem at all. There are, however, 1 or 2 sites, of course, where it is slightly more difficult. But using the combination of the Len rover and this rotary auger rig, most sites are accessible.
You've decided to use a rotary rig?
Yes, in this particular case, we feel it's applicable for the soil conditions that Roy has anticipated.
Now, how much trouble is there actually setting up the rig? What do you have to do to get it just right?
It is rather a fiddly job, but basically it means lowering 3 jacks and then raising the mast, and the mast then, of course, pinpoints over the wooden peg that Roy has inserted.
So I suppose it's quite important to get the thing absolutely vertical.
Oh yes, most certainly. A vertical hole is a must in water well drilling because it's so easy to deviate away from the actual line of the underground water supply. And as you can appreciate, if you have a slight deviation of a few degrees, the whole exercise becomes absolutely useless.
Right, well, we'll watch for a while and see what happens.
Fine.
Neil, the drilling's now in operation. What sort of problems can you come across when the auger's going down?
Well, I can quote you a whole list of possibilities, unfortunately, of things that can go wrong. In this sort of area, you can encounter, for example, fairly large sandstone fragments, which cause quite an embarrassment when trying to get through them. You can encounter a very, very dense sand and gravel, which, of course, makes drilling very slow. And, of course, you can hit layers of fine limestone, which also cause an embarrassment to that sort of rig, in the sense that it is rock and the equipment we're using isn't designed to penetrate that sort of material.
Does the hole that you've bored have to be lined?
Yes, we normally line this sort of hole because the sand and gravel will tend to collapse and obviously will cave in after a very short period of time.
So when they're lined, how permanent are boreholes?
Boreholes are permanent for ever and a day, once they are lined with a suitable material.
Is permission to drill for water like this very easily obtained?
Yes, most water authorities are quite keen to give permission with a minimum of trouble, yes.
For shallow drilling?
For shallow drilling, yes.
How much does it all cost on average for a farmer to have a dowser along and to have a drilling rig down and to find water? I mean, what's the whole job until he's got a glass in his hand?
It does vary considerably, as you'll appreciate, from area to area, depending on the soil profile. But as an average figure, I would think in this part of England, certainly you're talking of a sum between £2,000 and £3,000.
That's for the whole job?
That is for the whole job, i.e. water available for tapping.
In agricultural terms, is that cost effective, do you think?
I would say it's very cost effective at today's water rates, certainly.
Water bills can be very expensive these days. So why don't you think more farmers bother putting down boreholes on their land?
I think there is a reluctance by farmers to consider this type of operation because, firstly, the technique of locating water, i.e. using Roy's method of dowsing, is rather unusual. And secondly, the concept of using a drilling rig, I feel, in most people's minds, conjures up a high cost bill, where in reality it's quite a reasonable figure.
And it's very easy to get into the field, as we can see.
Oh, yes.
Do you really have as much faith in dowsers as in scientific surveys?
More so, in fact. Quite categorically, yes. We have had many instances where scientific instruments have been used to locate, for example, voids or obviously water, which have proven, when the site has been drilled, to be inaccurate. But using dowsing techniques, quite the opposite occurs. And we've, as I say, located cavities, water supplies, using dowsing techniques, and they've proven absolutely accurate.
When and if we reach water today, how will we get it out?
For this particular site, we will consider using a small petrol-driven pump, which will supply a gallonage of about 3,000 an hour, which will be quite adequate for the livestock requirements of this site.
Oh, well, let's hope we find it.
Let's hope so, yes.
No, it's right.
Well, you have found water, but you were 6 inches out of it. It was 18.6. Is that satisfactory?
That's good enough for me. It's off the hole a little bit because here we've got about 5 foot to play with. But that's great. It's great.
Plenty of water?
Enough for what they want. Enough for what they want.
What about the strata as you went down? Were you happy with that?
I was on with that, I'm pleased to say. Yeah, I was. I've got...
You took the mud away.
I had 4-footed topsoil, then 4 to 9 foot clay with gravel, which we got when the drill head started wobbling. Then we were into gravel and then into sand, a sandy base, which this mud is evidence of. When that's lined and forms a sort of a well into which the water can drain, then we're away.
I bet you've never been so glad to see mud, have you?
In this instance, you're right.